All right, gang, welcome back to this marathon session that we've been having on resources and its distribution and economic union. If you weren't in class on Friday, you missed this long session. If you're in class on Monday, you caught some of it. But anyway, the last segment of the day is we're going to talk about what are the effects of the unequal distribution of resources. We talked about this a little bit with the story of Bert and Betsy. So now we're going to tie in economic unions, and now we're going to tie everything together. Hopefully neatly and package it all up so that we've got an idea of what's going on. So first of all, number one effect of the unequal distribution of resources is countries choose to specialize. And what specialization means is that a country picks one thing and gets really good at producing it. If a country only has coal, they're only going to produce coal and the things that go along with producing coal, like steel. That plays a tremendous role in the products that they produce. You can't make stuff that you don't have. All right? Iceland, for example, could grow bananas, but they don't have a warm climate, so they're not going to produce it, and they can't do it efficiently. And they're only going to make the things that they can market or sell for a profit. So countries make that choice. They make the decision to only specialize in certain things that they can produce efficiently and profit off of. Okay. It also results in exchange or trade. That's the easiest way to look at this, is that the unequal distribution of resources result in trade or exchanging. Countries export those things that they can make for a profit, and they import those things that they can't. The United States, for example, imports a lot of clothes. It's very inefficient for us to make clothes here in the United States, and so we import a lot of our clothes. Most clothes people wear aren't made in the United States. Countries are only going to participate in those activities that are compatible, again, I've said this before, with their human, natural, and capital resources. Take all of those three things into effect, and countries are only going to be able to make those things efficiently and make a profit on them if those products are compatible with their resources. So what are the effects of comparative advantage on international trade? Well, remember, comparative advantage is the idea that countries choose to make certain things or get good or efficient at producing certain things so that they have an advantage over other countries. Well, it enables countries to produce things that they can make for a profit. Okay? It also influences the development of some countries. For example, steel, aircraft, automobile, and clothing are all centered in certain countries. Steel is made in the United States, in Europe, and in China, and a little bit in Canada. So those countries focus on those things. Aircraft, the United States and Germany are the world's #1 producers of aircraft, okay, because they're compatible with our resources. Automobiles, automobile production is centered largely in just a very few countries. Sweden makes Volvos. They don't make a whole lot of other cars. America has 3 major car manufacturers. Japan, several major car manufacturers because they're compatible with the Japanese resources. Germany produces cars. China is starting to produce cars on a larger scale. India produces cars on a larger scale because they're starting to become more compatible with their resources. And lastly, it's clothing. You're only going to produce the things that are compatible with their human, natural, and capital resources. Southeast Asia produces a lot of clothing. Central America produces a lot of clothing, primarily because it's compatible with their human resources. Okay? And comparative advantage supports the specialization and the efficient use of human resources, and that's what we've talked about repeatedly. So specialization and efficient use of human resources is one of the effects of comparative advantage. So let's talk about some countries and some of their specific resources and what they produce specifically. Japan is the first one we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about Russia, and then we're going to talk about the U.S. Japan is very highly industrialized. Mark it on your map. Japan is right there. Japan's very highly industrialized. They're a major manufacturing region, and their #1 asset or resource is their labor. So I'm going to take my pen here, and I'm going to mark Japan on the map. So follow along with me maybe. Oh, I got to get the felt tip pen. And I'm going to mark Japan on the map. All right, so Japan is right here, colored in on your map. All right, Russia is also a country that has a lot of natural resources. So Russia is a country with a ton of natural resources. All right, they have a lot of natural resources, but the negative about Russia is that they are hard to get to. Most of Russia's resources are right here in an area called Siberia. And it's very difficult for them to get those resources because it's so big and vast, it's hard for them to harvest it. The U.S. has one of the most diversified economies in the world, and I'm going to highlight the U.S., although if you don't know where the U.S. is, we've got some bigger issues. The U.S. is right here, okay? And we have a very diversified economy with lots of natural resources, and that enables us to do a lot of different things pretty efficiently. But we do have some specialized industries like aircraft, cars, steel manufacturing that gives us a lot of money. So what are some other countries around the world that aren't quite as diversified as those three countries and as strong economically? The Côte d'Ivoire. Côte d'Ivoire is a teeny tiny country on the coast of Africa, and the Côte d'Ivoire is right in here. You're going to have to look it up because I don't know where it is off the top of my head, and I am ashamed to say that. So it's off the coast of Africa right there. It's actually right there. Okay? The Côte d'Ivoire is a country that another country that we'll talk about, Switzerland, and lastly the UAE. The Côte d'Ivoire has very limited natural resources. They're in the Sahel region of Africa, and they don't have a whole lot of resources. So what they do is they exchange their crops for manufactured goods. They trade stuff they grow, cotton, peanuts, other things, rice, for manufactured goods. Switzerland is another country. I can show you where Switzerland is because I know where that is on the map off the top of my head without looking. Switzerland is another country that is very small with limited natural resources. Switzerland is right there in the center of Europe. Okay, Switzerland has limited natural resources as well. But what they do is they provide global services. Banking in particular is a big major industry in Switzerland. Okay, the UAE, and like I said, it's known for their banking industry. The UAE, or the United Arab Emirates, has abundant oil reserves. Okay, they've got a ton of oil resources, and that makes them very powerful. And the buildings there are beautiful, and it's found in this region of the Gulf, right there. All right, and they have abundant oil resources, and they have little other industry. But what they do is they are using those oil resources to gain wealth, and they're using those resources to develop a lot of different things, like tourism. They have a beautiful country. They're building lots of fancy things there. Palm Island, look it up. I don't have a picture here. But they're using those resources to pay for that. So here's some things I want you guys to think about as we go. We'll have another lesson tomorrow on how technology changes things and how things have changed over time. But here's what I want you to think about. Okay, I want you to think about why are there rich countries and why are there poor countries, and be able to explain why there are those two types of countries. And why are some countries developed while others are not, and be able to explain that. All right? Hope you guys have a great day. We're going to have another lesson on changes over time and developed versus developing nations a little bit later. But that's all for now. Have a great one.